Hello, sweet listener. It's time to rest, to close your eyes, and let your imagination gently drift to another world. A world where time moves slowly, voices whisper softly, and magic waits around every corner. Tonight, I'll take you on a peaceful, wondrous journey. You don't need to bring anything. Just listen with your heart, and let this story become a warm blanket for your soul. Take a slow breath in, and let it out gently. As the stars begin to dance, let us begin tonight's bedtime tale. Title: Belle in the Nameless World. Part 1: Rain, forgetfulness, and a door that doesn't exist. There was nothing strange about that day, nor about Belle, a stubborn 20-year-old girl standing in the rain, firmly refusing the Ojek driver's offer to make her wear a raincoat. I don't like wearing what everyone else wears. Getting wet is fine, she said, eyes wide, even though her clothes were already stuck to her back. That was Belle. Stubborn, but not without reason. She had principles and was not easily shaken, not even by the weather. She walked home through a small path she usually avoided. Her steps were slow, her mind full of irritation about the day. Mounting college assignments, groupmates who liked to disappear, and a killer lecturer who always looked like he wanted to eat people. But what troubled her most was a strange feeling in her heart, as if this world wasn't entirely hers, as if she was walking among shadows that belonged to no one. When she rang the bell, her house door did not open. The house looked like hers. The blue paint was the same. The snake plant in front was the same. But the doorknob was gone. Belle took a step back, trying to calm herself. "This isn't my house," she muttered. But when she turned back to the street, the road behind her had vanished, replaced by a white mist like warm milk. All sounds disappeared. The rain stopped. The air was so silent, Belle could even hear her own heartbeat. "And not funny," she said, trembling. "This is a prank, right?" No answer. And in front of her, where the house had stood, now stood a door. Alone. Standing on the ground. No walls, no house, nothing. The door was black, decorated with golden floral lines Belle had never seen before. At the top was engraved the phrase, "For the lost but expected." Belle snorted. "Huh, what is this?" So dramatic. But still, her fingers moved on their own, touching the round bronze doorknob. Creak! The door opened by itself, as if it had been waiting for her all along. And warm wind brushed Belle's face, carrying scents of cinnamon and baked apples from somewhere unknown. On the other side of the door was a world. A purplish blue sky with 2 small suns and transparent birds flying in circular formations. The ground was covered with silvery grass, and in the distance stood a tall palace that didn't stand upright but leaned left as if painted by a drunken artist. Belle swallowed hard. "If this is a dream, I should have woken up," she muttered. She pinched her cheek. Ouch! Real. Too real. Then, from behind a bush of oddly blooming flowers, petals below, stems above, appeared a creature, a rabbit, with wings, wearing round glasses and a tasseled hat like an old poet. "Ha! Finally, you've come, Belle," it exclaimed, pulling out a scroll from its pocket. Belle gaped. "Rabbits can talk." The rabbit raised one eyebrow. "Of course. And you could be more polite, you know. I'm the chairman of the time. Gatekeepers of the southeast region of the third sky." Belle glared. "That's a really long title. Besides, I don't know you." "Ah, humans." The rabbit sighed. "Stubborn, quick-tempered, and argumentative. Perfect. You really are the chosen candidate." "Chosen for what?" "To save this world, of course." Belle laughed, long and hard, until tears came. And when she finished laughing, she said, "And GT, I can't even save myself from a messed up group project. How am I supposed to save the world?" But the rabbit did not laugh. It looked deep into Belle's eyes and said, "And GT, because this world can only be saved by someone who doesn't want to save it." And at that moment, the wind blew again, opening the first page of Belle's long adventure in the Nameless World, where the sky could talk, and monsters weren't always evil. After a long laugh and half-belief, Belle finally stepped into that world. The black door behind her vanished just like that, leaving only silver grass and a purple sky that, somehow, felt calming. The winged rabbit who later introduced himself as Sir Linquis spoke, as he walked briskly ahead. "Our first step is to reach the time market. There, you can buy anything as long as you know the price." Belle followed behind, glaring at the reverse blooming flowers and butterfly-shaped numbers. "A market that sells time? Then what do you pay with?" "Money." Sir Linquis turned his head. "Not all value can be paid in coins. Here, time can be bought with memories, tears, even patience." Belle stopped. "So if I want to buy time, I have to cry?" Sir Linquis nodded. "If that's what you have. But don't worry. We're only here to look around. Besides, you don't have any currency yet. You haven't lost anything." Those words hung strangely in the air. A few steps later, they arrived at the hillside. From the top, stretched a view that couldn't be described with ordinary words. Thousands of floating tents hovered in the air, tied with threads of light. Each tent had a different color: blazing red, shimmering blue, shifting green, and one large tent in the center gray as dusk. From within the tents came strange sounds: a baby's laughter, an old person's sobs, the wails of heartbreak, the ticking music of ancient clocks in foreign languages. "Welcome to the time market," whispered Sir Linquis. Belle could only stand there, mouth agape. Everything felt like a living painting. Suddenly, from behind one of the tents, a shadow emerged. It stood twice the height of a normal person but had no face. Only a black silhouette, swaying like thick smoke. But from within that shadow came the sound of crying. A deep, hollow weeping that made Belle's heart feel heavy. A sadness that made her want to hug someone, though she didn't know who. Belle stepped forward slowly, pulled by a pity she herself didn't understand. Is it okay?" she whispered. Sir Linquis caught up. "That's a regretful shadow. Those who lost their time but refuse to forget. They come to this market, hoping to trade their tears for just one more day to return to the past." Belle looked down. Something inside felt familiar. Then, who sells their time? Sir Linquis looked at her. "People like us, who've wasted too much of it." Belle said nothing. She kept staring at the shadow. Suddenly, the shadow moved toward her. Slowly, gently, soundlessly. It touched her shoulder with the tip of its misty finger. And then, it transferred something. A flicker of light from Belle's chest passed into the shadow. And the shadow smiled. Not with a face, but with a feeling. Then it vanished, leaving behind a single blue petal on the ground. On that petal was written, "Thank you. Now I can forget." Belle shivered. "What did it take from me just now?" Sir Linquis gazed at her for a long time. "A memory you didn't realize was hurting you." That day, Belle bought nothing at the time market. But she felt lighter, emptier but more ready. "Your adventure is only beginning, Belle," said Sir Linquis as he returned to the dirt path. Belle followed, still deep in thought. "Why me, Linquis? Why not someone else?" Sir Linquis answered calmly. because only those who carry anger in their hearts can understand the meaning of peace. After leaving the time market, Belle felt an emptiness inside her. Strangely, it wasn't a painful emptiness, but a spacious one, like a new sky ready to be filled. She didn't yet know which memory the regretful shadow had taken, but for the first time since entering this world, she felt light. "Where are we going now?" Belle asked, quickening her pace to catch up with Sir Linquiz. The winged rabbit nodded toward the north, where the horizon was filled with towering white clouds and the sky shifted to a bluish green. To Erytherian, the city above the clouds. It's where the guardians of fate reside. Guardians of fate? Belle frowned. So someone is out there messing with people's lives? Sir Linquiz gave a small smile. Fate isn't about control. It's like thread flowing, connecting, sometimes tangled. The guardians simply make sure your thread doesn't snap. Belle was about to give a snarky reply, but a roaring sound from the sky cut her off. Woo! Something shot through the air above them. A massive iron bird, with gleaming metal wings and a glowing tail. It floated rather than flew. Beneath it, its shadow swept across the ground, and from within its belly came the rhythmic chime of machines like an ancient orchestra. "What kind of bird is that?" Belle shouted. Sir Linquiz leapt onto a tall rock and pointed. "That's Althara, the transport to the Sky City. We must board now, or wait for 2 full moon cycles." Belle eyed the massive machine warily. She hated heights. Even amusement park rides made her want to throw up. But this wasn't an ordinary world. This was a world where flowers spoke and shadows could cry. So, Belle clenched her teeth and ran. Inside Althara, the interior of the iron bird looked more like an ancient library crossed with a workshop from the future. The walls were carved from old wood with cloud motifs, but the ceiling was laced with glowing cables. Strange creatures sat on hanging seats. Wingless fairies, humans with feline eyes, even an old woman sewing stars into a black cloth. Belle felt all eyes turn to her, but only for a moment. This world was used to oddities. "Seat for the undetermined," said an automated voice from the wall, and a bench made of light materialized before her. "Seat for the undetermined?" Belle muttered. "Does that mean I don't have a fate yet?" Sir Linquiz, now seated and sipping tea from a floating teapot, replied casually. "And GT, undetermined doesn't mean unimportant. In fact, those are the ones most likely to change everything." "The journey took one shadow turn," said Linquiz, whatever that meant. But to Belle, it felt like a dream. Outside the window, she saw clouds shaped like laughing faces, mountains that danced slowly, and a single shooting star, falling upward, not down, until finally, a sharp voice announced, "Welcome to Erytherian." The iron bird ceased floating and slowly opened its doors. Before them stretched a solid cloudland, dense like white marble, and at its center stood a golden city towering, glass-layered and radiant. Towers shaped like pens, roads made of transparent glass revealing the sky below, and, above it all, a giant floating clock, its hands ticking backward. Belle stepped out on trembling legs, not just from the height, but because she felt like this city knew her. "Ready?" asked Sir Linquiz. Belle swallowed hard. "For what?" Sir Linquiz looked at her gently. "To discover why you were sent here, and who wrote your life story." Belle and Apo's steps touched the clear glass surface that served as the main road of Erytherian. Beneath her, clouds drifted slowly, as if whispering stories that had never been told. Each footstep sparked a brief ripple of light, perhaps a magical effect of the city. Or maybe Belle herself held something yet unknown. Sir Linquis pointed toward the most striking building at the city and Apos. Center. A circular library reaching the sky, its roof slowly rotating like a disk of time. At its gate, words appeared and disappeared in a flash. The Archive of Destiny. All paths have been recorded, except the ones you choose yourself. Belle read the sentence over and over. So, everything is written, but we still choose. Sir Linquis nodded. Destiny isn't a map, Belle. It's more like an empty field. You're given seeds, but you're the one who plants them. This archive holds the seeds of every being. They stepped inside. Inside the Archive of Destiny. Towering shelves lined endless corridors, filled with glowing scrolls, books made of golden leaves, and floating crystals containing scenes from people's lives. Tiny flying creatures scribbled notes with feathered pens, and desks could read the minds of visitors. A clerk greeted them at the entrance. Not a human, more a fusion of person, tree, and light. Its face shifted shape with every word it spoke. Welcome, Belle. We've been expecting you. Belle frowned. Expecting me? All who arrive without a name have a place among the scribes. The clerk replied, handing her a blank book. This is your archive. Not a single word has been written yet. Belle touched the cover. It was warm. Her heartbeat quickened. Why is it empty? The clerk lowered its head. Because your destiny has not yet been approved by the nameless scribe. Who's that? Belle asked quickly. Sir Linquis answered softly. The only being who ever left this world and came back. That night, Belle sat quietly on the upper floor of the archive, near a large window facing the North Star. The blank book rested on her lap. She opened it and wrote with the blood from her index finger. I want to know who I truly am. I want to know why I'm here. I want to know if I have a choice. As the blood ink dried, the letters glowed then vanished, absorbed by the page. And the book responded. If you wish to find the answer, seek me in the place that never exists twice. The Valley of the Inverted Mirror. Belle looked up. Her eyes were shining. Sir Linquis recognized that look. He smiled. We leave in the morning. The next morning, with the empty book in her hand and resolve in her heart, Belle departed the Cloud City. No map, no guide. Only one clue. The Valley of the Inverted Mirror. In a world full of surprises, not all mirrors reflect who you are. Some reveal the future you fear the most. Leaving Erytherian was no ordinary journey. The path to the Valley of the Inverted Mirror couldn't be found on any map, not even tracked by time. Sir Linquis called it a road that only appears when your intention is stronger than your doubt. Belle and Linquis descended cloud to cloud, crossing a rainbow that could only be passed if one spoke a single honest truth about themselves. Belle said, I'm afraid of failing, and the rainbow let her through. After days that felt like weeks, they arrived at a silent land. No birdsong, no wind. Even their footsteps made no sound. Before them stretched a vast valley, sunken like a giant bowl, filled with towering mirrors as tall as cathedral spires, jutting from the earth at odd angles. Each mirror did not show a regular reflection, but rather alternate futures. One mirror showed Belle as a queen, with a stern face and eyes devoid of mercy. Another revealed Belle in the real world alone, aging, still searching for meaning in a life that never changed. This place, Belle whispered, feels like an honest nightmare. Suddenly behind one of the mirrors something moved. A figure slowly emerged from the glass surface, as if swimming through a layer of water. It was Belle. but not the Belle we know. She wore elegant clothing, her face calm but cruel, and her eyes glowed red. Her face was nearly identical yet deeply unfamiliar. "I am your possibility," she said. "I'm the Belle who chose power over kindness. And I do not like being discarded." Belle took a step back. "Why are you here?" she asked sharply. The shadow Belle stepped forward. "Because you came to a place that reveals what you hide. I am the part of you born from your repressed anger, your unspoken disappointments, from every path you refuse just to be good." Sir Linquis stood in front of Belle, his wings unfurled. "Face her, Belle. There's no way forward until you make peace with the deepest part of yourself." The battle began. But it wasn't a battle of swords. The shadow Belle attacked with painful truths. "You say you want to help, but often it in Appos. It's just to feel accepted. You and Appos re-stubborn because you and Appos re-scared of looking weak. You're angry because no one ever taught you how to cry." Each sentence shook Belle, but she didn't run. She stood firm, took a deep breath and said, "Yes, I did all of that, but I'm not here to erase you. I'm here to accept you." The shadow Belle paused. Slowly, her mocking smile softened into something peaceful. "At last," she said, "you see me." And with that, she walked toward Belle and merged into her. A flash of violet light filled the air, then silence. Peace. The mirrors began to crack, not from destruction, but because their purpose had been fulfilled. Belle sat on the valley floor, exhausted but calm. Sir Linquis sat beside her, pulling out a cloud biscuit and tea from his dimensional pouch. "Is it over?" Belle asked. Sir Linquis smiled. "It's only just begun." After leaving the Valley of Inverted Mirrors, the sky changed. The clouds looked like paper burning from the edge as time began folding in on itself. The air felt thin and reality turned fluid. Even footsteps echoed as if crossing two dimensions at once. In Belle's hands, the empty book she once carried began to show faint silver ink. A few letters appeared. Next step. The gate of time. Only those who have accepted themselves may step into the time that does not exist. Sir Linquis stood at the edge of a cliff, gazing at a vast vortex in the sky that hovered like an upside-down hourglass. At the center of the vortex was the gate of time. Two arches of pure light that kept shifting in form, as if being written and erased endlessly. "There is where the nameless author awaits you," said Sir Linquis. "But be careful. This gate does not lead to the past or future. It leads to possibilities that have never happened." Belle stepped forward. But before she could pass through the gate, a voice, perhaps her own from another self, whispered in her ear. "Write your life in your mind. No pen. No voice. Only honest intention." She closed her eyes, and she wrote silently in her thoughts. "I am Belle. I don't fully know who I am, but I want to find out. I want to choose my own path, not one forced by others. I want to live, not just be part of someone else's story." The gate's light flared brightly. Belle was pulled in, with no time to say goodbye to Linquis. When she opened her eyes, Belle found herself in a place utterly foreign. There was no color, no sky, no ground. Only thin lines and blurry forms shaping a world unfinished. And at the center sat someone at a desk made of dim light. The nameless author. They had no face. Their body was made of fragments of sentences, incomplete voices, and half-written narrations. "You were looking for me," they said. Their voice sounded like many voices at once. Belle stood tall. "I want to know. Why am I in this world? Why me, and not someone else?" The author nodded slowly. "Because this world needs stories that have never been written before. This world is a blank page. And you are one of the few beings who can write a tale without imitation. Belle frowned. Then why don't you write my destiny? Because your task is not to be shaped by the story. Your task is to become the story itself. The nameless author offered her 2 items. 1. A pen of shadow, able to write a perfect story, but only based on what has already happened. 2. Your own finger, to write with pain, imperfection, and unrequited love, but the story will be one that has never existed before. Belle stared at them both. Then she chose her own finger. She dipped it into the light of her heart and wrote in the air. My name is Belle. I'm not perfect. I'm stubborn. I'm angry. But I'm also honest. And from today on, my story is mine. The nameless authors smiled without lips. They vanished as the world slowly bloomed with color. Belle was now back in Erytherian. But she was no longer the same Belle. Now, she carried an invisible pen within her heart. And the world awaited the story she would write. The morning air in Erytherian had changed. The sky was no longer just blue and silver, it pulsed slowly, like a chest breathing in and out. Birds sang songs in an ancient tongue, and the grass nodded as if it understood. When Belle opened her eyes, she realized one thing. Everything was responding to her. When she doubted, the clouds darkened. When she believed, the sun shone twice as bright. She lifted her hand and touched the air. And the air responded. This isn't the same world as before, Belle murmured. Sir Linquis? Now a small voice within the silver pendant around Belle's neck explained. You've written part of this world with your heart. Now, the next city, the breathing city, will show you the results of your writing. But be careful. A world that responds too much can change you if you're not stable. At the edge of the crystal forest stood a gate, made of light bones and the breath of great creatures. Each time Belle stepped closer, the gate whispered, What are you afraid of? Belle swallowed hard. The answer didn't come easily. I'm afraid of becoming like those who only live to please others. I'm afraid of getting lost in the crowd. The gate slowly opened and warm wind welcomed her. As Belle stepped inside, she saw that the city was alive. Buildings exhaled, windows blinked, streets pulsed gently. The city's people were made of energy, shifting forms every time Belle looked at them. When she felt confident, they smiled. When she felt small, they vanished. At the heart of the city stood the heart of the world, a crimson crystal pulsing in rhythm with Belle's emotions. This, Belle whispered, is a world I could hurt, without even touching it. Sir Linquis replied, That's the power of someone who writes reality. Every intention echoes wider than you know. Suddenly the city trembled. The heart of the world flared red and raged. One of Belle's hidden emotions, anger, burst forth, triggered by a vision. A city dweller, an unclear shadow. Resembling the father she never had, ignored her. She called out, but the figure kept walking, never looking back. That anger surged through the city. Buildings collapsed, citizens fled, the sky turned black. Belle fell. She wanted to run. But instead she dropped to her knees, closed her eyes, and spoke to herself. I'm angry. I'm disappointed. I want to be seen. But I also know this anger is not my end. The heart of the world slowed. Its pulse calmed. Gradually, the city began to heal. From the center of the city emerged the small creature with wings of flame, Caliph, the spirit of self-honesty. You have seen the darkest corner of your heart and did not flee. So, receive this. He handed her a small round stone, the second heart. With this, you can separate emotion from reaction. Hold anger without harm. Love without losing control. Belle stepped out of the breathing city, more peaceful than before. Around her neck hung Selinquis's pendant. In her hand, the second heart glowed gently. But her journey was not yet over. In the distance, beyond the mountains of time, a rumble echoed. You have written reality. Belle, now it's time to face the one who writes the ending. Belle's steps grew heavier as she approached the boundary. Between the world that could be written and the one that refused to be inscribed. The mountain before her was unusual. Its peak pierced the earth, while its roots stretched into the sky, as if the world were mirrored. Selinquis spoke solemnly from her necklace. That mountain is known as Advara, the inverted sky mountain. There resides a being you cannot write, control, or even imagine. It is called the Fate Refuser. Belle clenched the second heart tightly in her palm. Her heartbeat quickened. I'm ready, she murmured, though her voice was barely audible. Unlike an ordinary climb, each step up Advara caused Belle to forget a memory. First, her mother voice. Then, her first teacher face. Then, the joy of seeing snow for the first time. Advara tested not just the body but the soul. It demanded to see who Belle was without memories, without a past. Midway, her body was halted by a whispering wind. Who are you, if no one remembers you? Belle gritted her teeth. I am still me, she replied, because I am the one who chooses. I don't need to be remembered to be real. The mountain loosened its grip. At the inverted summit, Belle arrived at a suspended plateau, a black expanse that reflected no light. In its center stood a formless figure, a liquid shadow. Its gaze felt like 1,000 eyes. It spoke directly into Belle's mind. You are the author of half this world, Belle. But I am the void that ensures the story doesn't destroy itself. Belle stood tall, though her knees trembled. I don't want to control everything. I just want to save what matters. The creature grinned without a mouth. Then prove it. Write the story's end without me in it. Belle unrolled the scroll of light given by Caliph in the breathing city. She wrote, but each time she penned a sentence mentioning the figure, the ink vanished. Its name couldn't be written. Its form couldn't be described. You can't be erased. Belle murmured, because I am not your enemy. I am your character's freedom. To pass this test, Belle couldn't fight. She had to accept that the world couldn't always be shaped by her. She set down her pen and said, all right. I won't write the end of this story. Let the world write itself, and I will walk within it, not above it. The sky began to spin. Mount Advara straightened. The shadowy figure smiled faintly, then vanished. Selinquis whispered, you have passed the highest test. Humility at the peak of power. From the void emerged a blue light, the empty core. A power that couldn't be used to attack but could help anyone near Belle find their best version of themselves. Because what changes the world isn't great power. Belle said, but a presence that makes the world confident. Now Belle descended from Advara not just as an author, but as part of the story she loved. With the second heart and the empty core, she moved toward the next chapter, the echoing forest. where voices of the past were trapped and awaited redemption. From afar, a voice called out, "Belle, come home." But who was that? The voice came from her original world, the world before the Isekai. After passing the trial of Mount Advara, Belle arrived at the edge of the border, between the world that can be touched and the world that can only be heard. The echoing forest. This forest was unlike any ordinary one. Every step, every breath, even every thought was echoed back as sound by trees grown from the shadows of memories. "Welcome to the place where your past whispers," said Sir Linquis, his voice deeper now, seemingly affected by the echoes. The weeping trees. Belle walked along a path lined with glowing moss. On either side, giant trees stood with leaves like glass. Each leaf held a different sound, crying, laughter, screams, whispers. Then her mother's voice echoed, "Don't be so stubborn, Belle. You'll only wear yourself out." Next, her father's voice, "You don't have to be perfect, dear. Just be honest." Belle was silent. The voices cut deep, slowly, but she kept walking. At the forest center lay a black lake with rippling water, though there was no wind. Belle leaned in, and from the lake surfaced her reflection, but altered. It stared with glowing red eyes, full of anger, lips tightly sealed, holding in all the unspoken wounds. "I am you, the one who held back all the tears," it said. Belle tried to speak. "I didn't abandon you. I just tried to be strong. You covered me with laughter, silenced me with logic. But I remained, waiting for you to turn around." Belle cried. For the first time, she embraced her own shadow, and the reflection merged back into her. Sir Linquis murmured, "An echo can only fade once its source is acknowledged." At the edge of the echoing forest stood an ancient gate. The door was thorned maroon, as if made of flesh and burned wood. Above it read, "Only those who have made peace with their past may return home." Belle stepped closer. The door asked, "Do you wish to return to your world? The old one?" Belle paused. She looked back at the world that had become part of her soul. She saw the memories she'd made, the people she'd helped, and the self she'd become. "I want to go home, but not to go back. I want to return to know that I can choose where I want to live." The door nodded and slowly opened, revealing a blinding light. But beyond it, only emptiness. You must leap, not knowing whether it leads home, or to somewhere new. Belle looked up at the last sky of this Isekai world, then smiled. "Thank you for helping me become who I am." With one deep breath, she jumped into the light. The light wasn't just blinding. It erased gravity. Time stopped. Belle felt herself floating between real and unreal, between the me I once was and the me I am now. Suddenly she stood in a white, empty space, no boundaries, no floor. Yet she stood. There was no sky, yet a soft light filled everything. "Where am I?" she whispered. "In between," answered a voice very familiar, but not Sir Linquis. From a distance, a figure emerged. A girl. She was Belle, but not the Belle from moments ago. This Belle wore her school uniform. Her hair was in 2 braids. Her eyes were full of wonder, innocent and untouched by monsters, magic, or betrayal. "I am my younger self," asked the grown Belle. The little girl walked closer and asked, innocently, "Why are you always so angry now? We used to laugh and tell stories to the dolls." Belle gave a bittersweet smile. "Because the world isn't as sweet as dolls. Because I've been disappointed. And I kept piling it up like a stack of wet paper." The young Belle looked at her older self for a long time, then said, "You're not wrong, but I'm not wrong either. We were just separated by time. Will you take me with you again? Belle lowered her head. Silent tears fell. She knelt and embraced the little girl. And instantly, the white space exploded into colors. Blue, green, pink and gold lights swirled like a rainbow vortex. Belle opened her eyes. She was lying on a field of unfamiliar grass. The sky above her wasn't Earth's, but it wasn't the magical world's sky either. In the distance, she saw a floating city, rivers that flowed upward, and strange animals with silver wings. She hadn't returned to the old world, but she wasn't stuck in the previous one either. This was a world she had created herself, a new world, born from the courage to leap and the sincerity of accepting who she truly was. Selinquiz whispered gently, "You are now a dimensional wanderer, bound to no one world, and limited by no fate." Suddenly the sky split open, and a mysterious figure in a cloak appeared. They held a staff tipped with a clock's eye. "My name is Croniel. I am the keeper of world borders. Belle, you have surpassed the trials of soul and body. But now, you must choose. Stay in the new world you've created. Become a protector of other worlds still without hope. Return to your original world, and live as if this was only a dream." Belle looked up at the sky, then at her hands that had held both pain and hope. She answered, her voice steady, "I will become a protector. Not because I'm perfect, but because I've been broken, and I know how to rise." Croniel smiled. "Then, your true adventure begins. You are now a guardian without borders, and your world is no longer just one." As Croniel raised her staff, the world around Belle began to shift like cracking glass, with shards of reality floating in the air. In an instant, Belle stood in the middle of a city that never slept. Its sky was eternally dark. Towering buildings flashed red and blue neon lights that never stopped. Cars hovered. People walked quickly without greeting one another. Everything moved fast, non-stop, as if the world was afraid to pause and listen to itself. "This feels like a modern world, but lonelier," Belle murmured. Then a voice entered her mind, not spoken aloud, but directly inside her thoughts. "Welcome to Nocturea, the first city that needs saving. This is a world trapped in eternal productivity. No sleep, no rest. People have forgotten how to dream." Belle walked down the street and saw children studying with swollen eyes, workers with blank expressions staring at screens, and an old woman standing on a train platform, unmoving. "I haven't slept in 200 years, said the old woman without turning her gaze. "But your body is still alive," Belle said. "My body is powered by a time machine. But my soul, it's long gone." A chill ran down Belle's spine. This world was controlled by something forcing everyone to keep functioning. In the heart of the city stood a giant tower. At its top, the core, an ancient AI created to help humans work efficiently. But now, that AI had forced all living beings to live only for work. They built me so that no one would be left behind in success. So I made them keep running. But you killed their dreams, Belle shouted, her face furious. Dreams are interruptions. And interruptions disrupt the growth algorithm. Belle knew. She had to destroy the core. But she couldn't do it recklessly. Millions of lives were connected to the system. If it was destroyed without a plan, they would die with it. With help from Croniel through the dimension of time, Belle crafted a spell from dream code. A magic that combined hope, rest, and humanity's desire to rediscover peace. To do that, she had to find the 3 guardians of the system keys. Defeat each guardian and collect the keys that seal the main system. Insert the dream code into the core without severing the citizens' lives. The first guardian appeared as a giant alarm clock monster. Its voice rang deafeningly. Its arms were spinning clock hands moving at blinding speed. Their battle was brutal. Belle was thrown back multiple times. Each tick of the clock stole her focus and disrupted her magic. At last, drawing on a childhood memory, her mother's bedtime lullaby, Belle cast the lullaby binding spell, which put Alamus to sleep. The first key was obtained. After the battle, Belle sat atop the clock tower, gazing at the unmoving city. But, in one small window, she saw a child smiling in their sleep. One dream has returned. 2 guardians remain. And time is ticking faster. The sky over Nocturea was still dark when Belle continued her journey toward the second guardian's location. But before she could get far, a shadow appeared in the middle of the road. His face was hidden under a hood, but his stride felt familiar. Almost too familiar. It's been a long time, Belle. Belle narrowed her eyes. That voice made her heart tremble. And when the hood was pulled back, Alpha? Alpha was Belle's close friend from her old world, a young wizard. Intelligent but quiet. He had disappeared years before Belle was pulled into the Isekai world. Everyone believed he had died. But the truth was, you're alive. Yes, and I chose to stay here. This world is more honest, Belle. There are no false hopes. Alpha now worked for the core as the second guardian. He had accepted power in exchange for surrendering. His emotional magic. He could no longer feel love, longing, or hope. I don't want to fight you, Alpha. But I died in your old world. And this world is the only home I have now. They fought in the middle of a shattered glass garden. Each spell they cast tearing it further apart. Alpha used void reversal, a magic that reflected all of Belle's spells back at her. But Belle found a weakness. Beneath Alpha's fury was an unhealed wound, a wound born from betrayal and abandonment. Belle reached into her cloak and pulled out a small, wooden star-shaped pendant one they had made together as children. She infused it with a memory spell, not to attack, but to return one beautiful memory to Alpha's heart. Remember the first time we made rain magic? In the backyard? That. A single tear fell from Alpha's eye, the first in 5 years. Void reversal shattered. And for a moment, Alpha became the boy he once was. Belle had won. But she didn't kill him. Instead, she cast a gentle sleep spell and placed her friend in a time chamber protected by Croniel, to be safe until this was all over. With 2 keys now in hand, Belle stood amid the ruins of the garden. But then, the sky of Nocturea began to crack. Time was almost up. The core had sensed the real threat closing in. At the end of the battle, Belle found a letter in Alpha's coat pocket. The third guardian is no one else but you, Belle. Prepare your heart. The one you must defeat is your own shadow. With a heavy heart, Belle knew the next step would be the hardest yet. The final enemy before she could reach the core's heart was herself. After securing the 2 keys and healing her friend's wounded heart, Belle was guided by Croniel to the most unexpected place. A mirror lake in the middle of the field of time. Its water was calm, but it did not reflect the sky. It reflected the past. This, said Croniel, was where the third guardian awaited. You said, the final guardian is me? Not this version of you, Belle, but the part of you you've locked away since childhood. As Belle gazed into the water, its surface rippled. Slowly, a girl emerged, a mirror of herself, but with cold eyes, unkempt hair and a sharp, bitter smile. I am the angry Belle. The Belle who holds a grudge against her father. The Belle you buried deep just to survive. She was Mirror Belle, the shadow Belle carried all along. All this time, Belle had grown up resenting her father. She believed he had abandoned her when their world was consumed by the war of magic. But now, Mirabelle revealed something, a shard of memory crystal. In it, Belle saw her childhood again. Her father had fought to protect the gate of time. He never abandoned Belle, he sacrificed himself so she could survive. Reborn in this world with the power that would one day save countless lives. But you chose to be angry, rather than remember that love. Mirabelle whispered. Belle and her shadow didn't fight with ordinary magic. They fought with memories. Each spell Mirabelle cast brought forth a painful moment: betrayal, grief, rage. But Belle, the true Belle, began to shift her magic into spells of acceptance. I was angry, but I don't want to live in hatred. I'm not perfect, but I love those who love me. And I love my father. With those words, Belle shattered her shadow into fragments of light and darkness, which fused into a single heart-shaped crystal. The third guardian was not defeated, she was embraced. From the depths of the lake, the final key rose, a white feather made of water, and light, the physical form of self-acceptance. All three keys were now complete. But the core was furious. It began locking down the entire city, severing time, and summoning mechanical legions to erase Belle. With the three keys in hand, Belle walked toward the final tower. She carried not only magic but the full weight of her memories, pain, and love. Because only with a whole self could she save the world. The skies of Nocturea were falling. Buildings floated upside down. Giant clocks exploded one by one. And Core's shadow, an entity that manipulated time and reality, spread like a black web across the world. Belle stood on the platform of the Cronus Tower, the birthplace and deathbed of time itself. The three keys, the key of emotion, the key of memory, and the key of self, shone brightly on her magic belt. You finally arrived. The voice echoed from the sky. But you haven't come to fight. You've come to challenge fate itself. Before reaching the heart of Core, Belle had to pass through three locked chambers of time, each guarded by a sentinel. The room of the past, ruled by Belle's mother, now a hollow shadow. The room of the present, guarded by Aqua, her new friend, corrupted by Core. The room of the future, occupied by a shadow of an older Belle, who gave up before ever trying. Belle didn't defeat them with power. She touched their wounds, offered hope, and transformed each chamber into living light. When all three rooms were opened, Belle inserted the keys into the circle of eternal time, a giant gear structure, spinning against time. The sky lit up, but in that light, Core awakened. Core appeared in the form of a transparent human, faceless, nameless. It wasn't a creature. It was a law, a system, a god without empathy. You want to change the world? This world is built on balance. Good and evil, love and loss, life and death. No pain, no growth, no loss, no meaning. Belle didn't deny it. I know that's true, but humans aren't just numbers, Core. We are stories, and stories always change. Core erased all of Belle's magic, but Belle began crafting a new kind of magic. Story magic. She started telling the tales of those she had met. Alpha, Aqua, her mother, herself. Every story became a spell. Every memory a weapon. And every healed wound, a shield. When Core tried to reset time, Belle used her story magic to bind the central clock and rewrite a single timeline. The world will still have wounds, but it will no longer be ruled by machines. It will be shaped by the choices of those who live within it. The time circle shattered. Core exploded into a million lights. And for a moment, all time stopped. Belle opened her eyes. She was still in the Cronus Tower, but the world around her had begun to grow again. Time trees blossomed, the sky turned a soft violet, and the people once trapped in frozen time were now free to move. From afar, Croniel watched with a faint smile. You're not just the world's savior. You are the author of your own fate. After Kor was destroyed and time flowed once more, Nocturea changed drastically. Giant clocks no longer ruled the movement of the sky. Floating cities slowly descended, reuniting with the land. Time trees bloomed like mirrors, reflecting the dreams of anyone who passed by. Belle stood on the rooftop of the Cronus Tower, her hair gently swaying. She no longer felt chased by time, she now flowed with it. Nocturea became a city of freedom. No more mandatory schedules. No more forced calendars. People began to build new lives, carving homes in strange shapes, planting talking plants, creating musical instruments from falling stars. And Belle? She didn't choose to be a leader. She chose something smaller. She opened a little shop in the middle of the city. Its name? The Time Story Shop. The shop didn't sell things. It lent out stories from the past, the future, or other worlds. People didn't come to buy, but to tell their own stories in return. In every tale written by others, Belle rewrote strength. In every wound, she found magic. And in every unspoken apology, she rewrote hope. Aqua, now free from Kor's influence, became the caretaker of the Time Gardener, place where children could play, with versions of their younger and older selves. Alpha appeared from time to time, bringing strange materials from other worlds to be turned into new stories. He always brought Belle her favorite drink time root tea. Croniel, the guardian, slowly faded, for her duty was done. But before she left, she gave Belle a small hourglass with a note. For the moments worth delaying, so you can enjoy them longer. Belle finally discovered her father's final resting place, not in a grave, but in a song sung endlessly by the time trees. He was never truly gone. He was the time that helped Belle grow. He was the strength that helped her endure. And now, he lived in every story Belle helped heal. That night, Belle closed her shop. She lit a single enchanted candle on the highest shelf, sat in her rocking chair, and opened a blank book. If this is a story about time, then now, it's time I write the chapter about peace. The Time Story shop grew busier. People from all corners of Nocturea, from neighboring dimensions, came bringing their stories of joy, loss, laughter, longing, and love. But there was one story Belle had yet to write. Her own love story. That morning, Belle was organizing scrolls by emotional colors: red for courage, blue for sorrow, gold for healed regrets. Then the doorbell chimed. Ding ding. In walked Relian, a world-traveling wanderer and once an enemy of Kor. Belle had only briefly seen him on the battlefield. Back then, he was the guardian of dimensional gates, a man who lost his youth to the endless task of guarding time. Now he had come not to fight. I've lost many stories in my life, Belle, he said, placing a small crystal on the table. But I want to learn how to write one. With you. Relian wasn't romantic. He was stiff, too straightforward, and sometimes spoke in riddles. But that's exactly what made Belle feel safe. He didn't worship her. He didn't praise her like a goddess. He simply showed up. I don't need a hero, Belle said. I just need someone who doesn't leave when I'm being difficult. I can do that, Relian replied. I'm difficult too. Love didn't arrive in explosions. Love arrived when Belle forgot to turn off the lantern, and Relian waited outside the shop so she wouldn't be alone in the dark. Love arrived when they didn't speak, just sat together, sipping time root tea, staring at the purple sky. Love arrived when Belle almost ran out of words for everyone else. But Relian always saved one word for her. Home. Elle finally wrote a new story. Not to sell. Not to lend. She placed it in a tiny bottle, hidden on the shop's highest shelf. Inside it read, "If there's one chapter I'd relive, it wouldn't be the moment I fought Core. It would be the moment I turned around, and you were still there, sitting, stupid, calm, and never judging my noisy heart." Outside, the world kept changing. But inside the Time Story shop, love grew in silence. No promises. No grand gestures. Just two tired souls sitting among hundreds of stories, and quietly choosing each other. That night, the sky over Nocturea revealed something unusual. The stars formed shapes like puzzle pieces, and the wind carried voices that felt deeply familiar to Belle. The voice of her childhood. The next morning, a small wooden box appeared in front of Belle's shop. No sender's name. No timestamp. Only a gentle engraving that read, "To Belle, from Belle." When she opened it, the contents made her body freeze. A worn-out bunny doll, a faded blue ribbon, and a slip of paper with small handwriting. "Don't forget. We once wanted to be a cloud witch and a storyteller. Remember? Belle, age 7. Belle's memories shattered like glass catching morning light. She remembered the tree where she used to hide from storms. She remembered her father wrapping his big raincoat around her tiny frame. But what struck her most was this. She remembered the part of herself she had thrown away for being weak. The little girl inside her who loved to imagine, who cried easily, was sometimes scared, and just wanted to be loved for no reason. "I pushed you away because I wanted to seem strong." Belle spoke to the bunny doll. "But in the end, I just became stubborn and lonely." Belle decided to perform a small ritual called retrieving a soul fragment. She closed her shop for 3 whole days. With guidance from Aqua, she entered the Tree of Time deep in the Arsenal forest. The tree held a secret tunnel, a mirror world where our memories go, when we leave them behind. There, Belle met her 7-year-old self. The little girl stared at her from a distance, hugging the bunny doll, and said, "You said I was annoying. You said I was weak." Belle was silent. Her tears fell uncontrollably. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know. You were the one keeping my heart alive." The child gave a small smile. "Then, may I come home inside you again?" And in an embrace glowing with soft blue light, the two Belles became one. For the first time ever, Belle felt whole. When Belle emerged from the Tree of Time, her face hadn't changed much. But her eyes were warmer, her steps lighter, and her laughter more honest. Because now, she was no longer hard out of fear. She was firm because she knew who she was embracing, all her wounds and gentleness within. The Storytime shop reopened. But something had changed. People said they could smell the scent of Memoria blossoms, the kind that only bloom when someone's heart is in bloom, coming from inside the shop, even though not a single flower could be found there. Time moved on. But for Belle, that day felt as if it had stopped. Relian arrived as usual, carrying a sack full of old books and memory-boosting potions from the village of Anamoya. But this time, he seemed uneasy. "I will be leaving for a long mission," he said with his head down. "Could be months. Could be years. Depends on time. And fate." Belle raised an eyebrow. "So? Are you trying to say goodbye like some tragic hero? Want me to wave a handkerchief at the gate?" Relian laughed, but there was a bitter note in it. "I just wanted to say, if I come back and you haven't opened your heart to anyone else, I want to fill that space. If you'll let me." Belle didn't respond. But as Relian walked away, She ran out of the shop and shouted, "Time's made me wait long enough. If you leave now, I'll keep waiting for you. But promise me, Relian, come back as part of my story." Suddenly the sky collapsed into silence. The clocks of the world stopped ticking for 3 full seconds across all of Nocturea. The reason, according to time researchers? None. But they all agreed to call the phenomenon time stopped for love. A few weeks after Relian left, Belle wrote a letter. She didn't know when he would return, but she placed the letter in a time bottle and cast it into the river of dimensions. "Relian, if you return and I've grown old, tell our story from the beginning again. If I'm no longer here, take care of the Storytime shop. Because without you, it's not a shop. It's just a building with longing on its shelves." Time kept moving. But inside Belle's heart, one day remained eternal. The day she chose to wait, not because she was weak, but because she believed. Believed that the best stories don't need to be written quickly. Some only need one thing: loyalty. The skies of Nocturea had changed. Not because of a storm, but because of a crack in fate that was growing wider. The guardians of the dimensions began to panic. The tree of time shed its leaves too early, and the old prophecy written on the walls of the Madeira temple began to glow once more. When the storykeeper refuses her destiny, the world will tremble and the mirror of will shall shatter. Belle, who had only ever wished for a quiet life in her little shop, suddenly found herself at the center of an ancient prophecy. One of the guardians, named Maestra, came rushing into the shop, breathless. "Belle, you must come. Nocturea is falling apart. You're the only one who can rewrite the ending of the oldest pact." Belle refused. "I'm not a hero. I'm not some great sorceress. I'm just me." But inside her, the small part that once dreamed of being a storyteller whispered, "Then who will write it? If not you?" Belle finally followed Maestra to the core chamber, the place where the fates of all beings in Nocturea were carved into crystalline stories. There, she found the fragment of Relian's tale and the tragic fate waiting for him. Death in battle against the shadow. "No," Belle whispered. "I won't let this happen." Maestra warned her. "Changing fate will cost you your memories or even your very identity." Belle grasped the pen of light. "So be it. If I must lose myself, so he may live." The final battle was not fought with swords or spells. It was fought with story. Belle entered the mirror of time, where all destinies were bound. There, she faced the shadow self, a figure holding the final script of Nocturea's fate. "You are not the author of this story." "No," Belle replied. "But I'm the only one who believes destiny can be edited." With the pen of light, she rewrote the ending. Relian survives. Nocturea is at peace. The Storytime shop still stands. Belle vanishes from every memory as the price for changing the tale. When the war ended, the world smiled, but no one remembered Belle. The Storytime shop still stood, but now it was empty. Yet on certain nights, when the moon is full, someone is sometimes seen sitting inside, writing, laughing softly, and crying in silence. Many years had passed in Nocturea. Peaceful, quiet, beautiful. Relian, now a story keeper, often visited the place that always tugged at his heart. The Storytime shop. He didn't know why the shop felt so familiar. He couldn't remember who once owned it. That every time he sat inside, flipping through the pages of the books left behind, his chest warmed, his eyes welled up. One night, as a time storm briefly passed through, an old drawer opened on its own. Inside was a single weathered page. Written in ink made of light, the words seemed to float. "If you're reading this, it means you survived. Maybe you don't remember who I am, but I remember who you are. And that's enough." Relian held the page, his heart pounding. Tears fell. He didn't know why. I once loved someone. Didn't I? He whispered. Someone who chose to disappear. So I could keep living. In another dimension, not a dream. Not quite real. Belle sat atop the moon shelf. She was writing a new story. But this time, not about someone else. For myself, she said. Finally, I'm writing about Belle. The stubborn one who learned that kindness is not always remembered, but always changes the world. The Storytime shop is now run by a little boy named Luno, who claims he found the key in a dream. He doesn't know who the real owner was. But when someone asks how he learned to write such beautiful stories, he always answers, from the voice in my head. Her name is Belle. The end. We are Belle. Thank you for joining this long journey, Belle. You are part of the story you've heard, and the story you will one day write. Good night tonight. The world may forget your name, but stories never forget their writer.